Nerdy is defined as someone characterized by an obsessive interest in something. Xbox, Marvel, technology, D&D, Lord of the Rings, escape rooms, Pokemon, Funko Pop, Star Wars, PlayStation, comic books, Magic the Gathering, Nintendo, Harry Potter, Game of Thrones, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Power Rangers. All of that is Tech D Rob, host of the Nerd News Podcast, your source for everything nerdy.
I realize you guys are all nerds.
And this is the Nerd News Podcast.
Welcome to the Nerd News Podcast for June 13th. It is not a lot to go over. A lot of things like to recommend you check out for yourself, but nothing real in-depth today. So let's get to the quick hits and then we'll get to the regular content, as it were. So, I don't even know how to pronounce this. Dordogne? Dordong? I don't know. It's on PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X and S, PlayStation 4, Xbox One, Switch, and PC. Crime Boss Rockay City on PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X and S. Jack Gene on Switch. And I'm sorry, that the first one's today. The two that I just mentioned are Thursday, and also on Thursday, Layers of Fear 2023, PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X and S, and PC. I played the original Layers of Fear and the sequel. I'm not a big fan of the sequel, but the first one was pretty interesting. F1 23 is available on current and next-gen Xbox and PlayStation along with PC. And then Park Beyond is on next-gen PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X and S, and PC. The Super Mario Brothers movie and The Pope's Exorcist are now available on DVD. I've seen both of those movies. I can recommend one of them to you. The Pope's Exorcist, not terrible. If whenever it comes to a streaming, sure, give it a shot there, but don't pay money to see it. Beau's Afraid is available digitally this week. That's that weird Joaquin Phoenix movie that I don't know anybody that I know has seen it. But I mean, once it's on a streamer, I will check it out as well. This weekend, however, is a huge movie weekend. Elemental is the new Pixar movie, and The Flash is also in theaters this weekend. So two really heavy hitters. I would guess that Elemental is going to take the box office, but The Flash should do pretty well as well. So we're going to take a break on the Nerd News Podcast here, and when we return, I'll tell you about a movie I saw, a video game I beat, and I can't think of anything else to tease there. So, a video game I beat and a movie I saw over the weekend coming up next on the Nerd News Podcast.
At TechD_Rob on Twitter, Instagram, and Twitch. More Nerd News Podcast next. Follow TechD_Rob on Instagram, Twitter, and Twitch. At TechD_Rob. This is the Nerd News Podcast.
Welcome back to the Nerd News Podcast. As you can see from last week, I have a haircut. If you're watching this on video, if you're not, then just know that I have a haircut. That's all that I had to say. But let's get to the rest of the stuff that I have on the Nerd News Podcast. So, over the weekend, a new Pokemon trading card game series came out. It is called Paldea Evolved, or Paldea Evolved. I don't know how you say it, but it's what's the Scarlet and Violet? It is those Pokemon being introduced into the trading card game. But then there's, I believe, soon a Pokemon 151, where it's the original 151 Pokemon being returned to the TCG, with the first instance of Abra, Kadabra, and Alakazam being together in a set in probably since the beginning of the game, because I think Uri Geller was the guy's name, sued Pokemon over, I want to say, Kadabra. I think he said Kadabra looked like him, and he finally let it go. So they are able to release those again, which is cool. Abracadabra and Alakazam are some of my favorite Pokemon. They're really, really cool. So the Paldea Evolved is a pretty fun set. It's the first time that I've looked at Pokemon cards and went, I don't know who this Pokemon is, because I haven't played Scarlet or Violet, and I haven't really looked into these. So it's a weird feeling to not have heard of a Pokemon. I used to know literally all of them, but here we are, and I don't. Also revealed last week was Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. It's coming early 2024, and it looks to be changing the timeline ever more. If you've played the original, you know that it has diverged from the original Final Fantasy VII game, and obviously, even the slightest divergence from a story to go back to that story would be weird. So it's continuing even further divergence from the original with this new one, and oddly enough, it is. If you remember the original Final Fantasy VII, it came on 3 discs, I think. This Final Fantasy VII Rebirth on PlayStation 5 will have 2 discs. As far as I know, marking the first of any title to have more than 1 disc for these next-gen consoles. So that's should be pretty huge. Over the weekend, Xbox did a summer showcase, and I'll talk about that more in a little bit. But today, on the day of recording this, Monday, June 12th, Ubisoft was doing a showcase. And as I looked at it, I was like, what would people be interested in knowing about? And I went, well, I personally would not be interested in almost any of this. It's more Assassin's Creed. They announced a show about Far Cry 3, the Rise of the Dragon thing. And a Ubisoft subscription service, much like the EA Play subscription service. And I'm not gonna spend $15 a month for Ubisoft titles. It's just not. It's not in the budget for a Ubisoft subscription service. I mean, they're a little ahead of themselves. I think they think too highly of what they're doing over at Ubisoft. So yeah, I mean, if you're interested in Ubisoft titles, check it out. There was a lot talked about, including one game that was mentioned at the Xbox Summer Showcase called Star Wars Outlaws. They did do a gameplay showing, a reveal or whatever of that one, whereas the Xbox one they just showed that it was coming to Xbox. So yeah, that looked interesting at least. Any Star Wars title, I'm definitely going to have at least a little bit of interest. So yeah, Star Wars Outlaws available on the Xbox at least. I don't know if it's going to be on PlayStation as well. But again, I'll go over some more of those Xbox Summer Showcase things here in just a minute. Reddit, you may have heard, is charging third-party software to use their API, which is their back-end information. I look, this is just words that I found. I don't know what they mean, but it's the gist of it, from what I gather, is if they allow these third parties to use their API, they use the infrastructure with which Reddit has been built, and that allows them to thrive as an app using Reddit as well. Using Reddit to allow them to navigate Reddit in an easier way, because the Reddit app kind of sucks. So a lot of Reddit users are unhappy about this because they don't want to use the regular Reddit app because it sucks. It does. I use the regular Reddit app simply because I didn't know there were third-party ones available. But now that I know, they're all about to be shut down because Reddit's going to start charging them inordinate amounts of money. It's crazy how much money they're trying to get from these third-party app developers. But it is where they stand currently, and as a protest, a lot of Reddit's subreddits have been closed to new users. I found this out before I read an article about it, because I was searching up stuff for a D&D campaign that I'm DMing about Curse of Strahd, and there was a Curse of Strahd subreddit, and I tried to access it from my phone, and it just said it doesn't appear to be active anymore, and I was like, that doesn't make sense. Then I tried to do it on my computer, and it tells you a little blurb from people who are closing these Reddit subreddits that it is in protest of these changes that they're trying to install on this Reddit third-party situation. So I guess the plan is to take away some traffic from the site. I don't exactly 100% know what they intend for these closings of subreddits and privating them. What the end result they're looking for is. I'm guessing just to have Reddit go back on what they've suggested. But again, I just was introduced to that today when I was looking for information about stuff. So Reddit, not on everyone's nice list. I don't know where I was going with that. Let's talk about some reviews. Legend of Zelda, Tears of the Kingdom. I've talked about it pretty much every week. I will say this week I only played it on Saturday. I didn't play it during the week. And on Saturday, I said, all right, I'm doing one thing, and then I'm going to go fight the final boss. So the one thing I wanted to do was completely upgrade the armor that I wanted to use, which was the Fierce Deity armor, if you're familiar with the Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. It was a very popular armor that you could get in the game if you had amiibos. So in this game, you can actually find the armor, and it's a pretty powerful armor because it's a set bonus. It gives you extra attack damage, but when you upgrade it, it also reduces the amount of stamina that a power swing would use. So it's the one that I was really interested in leveling up on my way to fight Ganondorf. I found out quickly that I should have gotten one that's gloom resistant, because that is the most annoying thing in this whole game. But it is a very, obviously, I should have known, it's very apparent that that should have been something I was worried about going into there, but I just overlooked it and I decided to just continue. I didn't die any in the final boss fight, not very challenging, but again, I had a fully upgraded armor, which is, something you got to work pretty hard on to do, so I think that they leveled it out that way. But there were times in the final boss fight, or one of the final parts of the final boss fight, when Ganondorf would attack you, you would not just lose health. You lose total health. So your hearts would just disappear, which is similar to what the Gloom does in the game. So if you're not familiar, in the Gloom, when you walk through it, your hearts on the screen break, and they can't be refilled until you step into the light of a route underground of the shrines above, or if you go back upstairs, up above ground, it'll also clear that gloom poisoning, I guess is what it's called. But it's annoying. It really is. But this was not just the hearts breaking with Ganondorf. Those hearts just disappeared, and so you couldn't even I had made a whole bunch of different foods in the game to heal the gloom. Wouldn't have mattered, and I couldn't restore health. I just had to deal with the health that I have, and that was a little bit of a challenge, but I made it through. And then, I'm not gonna tell you much else about any of the fights, because it's something that if you were gonna play the game, you'd want to experience it yourself. But I will say, a satisfactory ending, and it's a good thing I ended it when I did, because I had grown. I'd grown tired of playing the game, and not because it's not a great game. It is. It's an incredible game. One of the best games ever made. But I think the repetition of things like that really was getting to me. And, like farming for Lionel parts or whatever I needed to upgrade these armors it was tedious. And I didn't have to do that. You're right. I could learn to block better and not take as much damage, but I wanted the backup, essentially. So what I would say is, if I wouldn't have beaten it on Saturday, and I'll tell you why I beat it, honestly. I was watching TikToks, and I scrolled to one that told me where I could find Lionel's, and that was one of the final pieces that I needed to upgrade the Fierce Deity armor completely. I needed Lionel guts. So when I did that, and I saw it, and it told me where I could get them, I was like, all right, well, I'll go get them now. And I went to those places they told me to go, got some Lionel guts, upgraded my Fierce Deity armor all the way, and then I went to go face Ganon. And that's what I did. I mean, that was Saturday. It took like 2-3 hours. I would say I've probably got 70 hours in the game. It'll probably stop there. I don't think I'm going to pick it up again until there's like DLC or anything like that. But that's not a knock on the game. The game's incredible. And if you have a little more patience than I do with things in general, you'll enjoy the game even more than I did. It's still a 10 out of 10 for me. And I'll tell you, I had the same issue with Breath of the Wild. Breath of the Wild, I got all the way to go fight Calamity Ganon, and I stopped before I went to the castle. Just completely quit. I can't explain why. Something else probably came out along the way, but it's a good thing that I didn't have any other video games come out since then. for me to focus on. I was interested in Street Fighter 6, but I decided I don't want to buy it because if I buy it, I'm not going to play Zelda. So I had a little more self-control in that moment, as it were. So that was nice. I did finish the game. Go me. Over the weekend, on Friday, I saw Transformers Rise of the Beasts. It is the 7th Transformer movie, I believe, if we include Bumblebee and all of them. It is also a prequel, but it's a prequel to the original series, potentially. Now, I don't know if they're diverging on that one either. But Bumblebee was, of course, the prequel to the whole series, but this is a sequel to that prequel. Do you follow me now? This is the sequel to the prequel of the Transformers original series. But Bumblebee is the starting and the foundation of this movie. Some years later, we pick up with... I don't remember his first name, but his last name is Ramos, I believe, in the movie. Him and Pete Davidson as a car. Peter Cullen as Optimus Prime. Yet again, thank goodness. I mean, the only voice I'll accept is Optimus Prime. Once he's dead, we gotta be done with Optimus Prime. Ron Perlman plays Optimus Primal. Now, Optimus Primal is a character that had a special place in my heart because in 1996 there was a Beast Wars Transformers show, and I loved it. I think it only got one season, but I loved it. I loved I had the toys. I had Optimus Primal. I had Cheetor, Rhinox, I think, Air Razor. I had some of the toys, and I enjoyed it a lot. So when this was coming out, Beast Wars was brought to my attention. I forgot about it completely. Did I enjoy the movie? Yes, the answer is yes. Is it a good movie? No, it's not a great movie. As far as a Transformer movie goes, this is one of the better ones. I would say this, Bumblebee, the original Transformers, maybe even one or two of the sequels are good Transformers movies, but that doesn't make them good movies. Don't misunderstand that. Bumblebee's not a great movie, but it's fun. It was a fun Transformers movie, and it did what I needed it to do. And that was entertain me and have Transformers doing Transformer things. This one not only has Optimus Prime, Bumblebee, Pete Davidson has a car called Mirage, RC's in it, a lot of cool, not Decepticons, but I can't remember. What is the bad guy? It's not going to come to me, but the bad guy Beast Wars, the bad guy Beast Transformers. I can't even think of the good guy Beast Transformers names off the top of my head. But anyway, it had plenty of fights between them. It was a lot of fun. A cool little teaser thing for future movies at the end. And if you're that curious about it, and I think it's a really cool way to continue this franchise, and if you really want to know what it is, you can DM me on Instagram and I'll tell you what it is. I'm just not going to say it here. The movie's been out less than a week. And it's something that I feel like if you see it in the theaters, you'll enjoy it a little bit more. And this movie really should be seen in theaters. I saw it in a Dolby theater, and the sound system, I mean, a Transformers movie, you have to know that it's gonna kill it sound design wise. And they do kill it sound design wise. A little long, and unnecessarily long, and also not only just was it long in general, but it didn't have enough of the good guy Beast Wars characters. Like, they seemed like an afterthought to the Autobots, and I don't know. It's just I wish I could have got more time with Optimus Primal and all of them. It's probably just me. But yeah, that was my review of Transformers: Rise of the Beasts. Not a terrible movie. It's thumbs middle movie. I enjoyed it though. There was in the final sequences, the last 30 minutes get 2 thumbs up. The final 30 minutes is exactly what I want in a Transformers movie. Lots of fight, lots of action, and I had a big smile on my face the last 30 minutes. It was great. So if you can bear with an hour and 30 minutes of just okay film, you get 30 minutes of great. In my opinion, it's not great. Don't quote me on that. Good, fun. So the last thing I want to talk about, and I'm not going to get too in depth on any of these. I'm just going to tell you some of the titles that were teased at the Xbox Summer Showcase, and then if you're interested in these titles, And some of these, I really don't even know what they are, to be honest with you. I didn't watch the whole thing. I couldn't find like a good place to watch the whole thing, and I watched the trailers for the ones I was interested in, which is what I would think you should do as well. But let's get started. So some of the games that were talked about, and I'll pause as we get to ones I know a little bit more about. Fable, if you remember Fable 1, Fable 2, Fable 3. This, I believe, is a new version, like a retelling, new, starting from the beginning Fable. The trailer for it's pretty funny. I'd suggest you check it out if you're interested. South of Midnight is another game. Star Wars Outlaws is a game that I was telling you about earlier. It's a Star Wars open world game made by Ubisoft. So I haven't had a chance to watch the footage from that one, from Ubisoft's reveal. So I can't tell you much more about it. 33 Immortals is another game. Payday 3, which is the bank robbing game. Avowed. Sea of Thieves and a Sea of Thieves and Monkey Island crossover. Sea of Thieves, of course, the pirate game that was on Xbox, and Monkey Island is a pretty old. I want to say it's not too terribly old, but it was like a point and click type game, it's just a weird crossover in my opinion. Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024. The cover of it shows a helicopter, so I think they're doing some like search and rescue, like firefighting things as well in this one. Seems pretty cool. The other one was interesting. It used Bing Maps to show you like real-time weather in places, and it used those maps for the topography, and it was pretty cool. I played it like once because it's not a game that I'm going to continue to go back to. Sinuous Saga, Hellblade 2. Hellblade 1 was interesting. I never finished it. It was pretty difficult. Like a Dragon, Infinite Wealth, just another spin-off of that series. Fallout 76 is a game that I didn't think that many people still played, but there is an Atlantic City expansion coming. Kunitsu Gami, Path of the Goddess, is a Capcom game coming out. Looks like demons are the bad guys, and you've got a sword and magic, which, I mean, it sounds like that, doesn't it? There's a new Forza coming out this year. No number designation yet, no name. It could just be called Forza Motorsports. I don't know. Persona 5 Tactica was talked about, which was also talked about last week as well in the PlayStation one, I believe. Starfield, their big title, was revealed. They had a story reveal, and they told a little bit more information about it. Now, I will say this. It looked interesting, but they said that it is locked at 30 FPS, which is not something you want to hear about your next-gen console, that the big thing about it is it can do 4K 60 FPS. They say it's locked at 30 FPS for consistency reasons. But I feel like maybe you say it runs best at 30, but then you let people do 60. And if they don't like the way it runs, then you can just go back. But I guess that also, if you do that, you have people who will say, well, it didn't work in 60, and now I don't like it. So it's a lose-lose for them if they can't get it up to 60, in all honesty. Jusant, I don't know what that is. Still Wakes the Deep, Dungeons of Hinterberg, Cyberpunk 2077 has an expansion coming, and I feel like that's probably too late for this at this point. I can't the last time I picked up Cyberpunk, I was completely lost in my story in the game, and I'm not going back. I'm just not. City Skylines 2, Metaphor Refantasio. Okay, Towerborn, Clockwork Evolution, and then finally they revealed a new Xbox Series S with 1 terabyte storage, and it'll be black instead of the white one. Like I have one over there on my wall. That's what I play in the office here. I play on the Xbox Series S. The Xbox Series X is in my living room. Now you may be wondering why I got both. Well, one was a really good deal. Somebody bought one and they didn't want it, so I couldn't pass it up. I'm a sucker for a deal. But it's got 1 terabyte of storage, which is double what I have on that one. And it's black color. It'll be $350, available September 1st. So that is the gist of the Nerd News podcast today. I don't know what to tell you for next week. I plan to see The Flash. Oh, I also am going to play in some pre-releases for Magic the Gathering. The new Lord of the Rings set is releasing this weekend. Well, not releasing, but they're doing a pre-release for the weekend. And I am stoked. I'm playing in at least 2 of those this weekend. And it comes out on Magic the Gathering Arena next week. Maybe you can catch me on Twitch playing a little bit next week. Twitch.tv/techd_Rob. Now that I'm finished with Zelda, I have time to resume my Twitch streaming. Because like I said, I still just haven't gotten Twitch streaming down for my Switch. I'd have to hook up the computer over there. It's a whole thing. But follow me on Twitch, techd_Rob, Instagram, Twitter, techd_Rob on all of those platforms. And thank you for joining me this week, and I'll see you next week.
That's it for this week's Nerd News Podcast. Follow TechD-Rob on Instagram, Twitter, and Twitch at TechD_Rob. Subscribe now. More nerd news next week.